Alright guys, in this video I finally made a Wild Rift ADC tier list that I think you guys will all enjoy. And before we get on into that, I finally chosen the 3 giveaway winners. They are on the screen right now. So if you are the winner, the way to accept your rewards is to either join my Discord and message me in my Discord or in my Discord and like DMs, or you go on Twitter and DM me on Twitter. Those are the 2 ways to claim your reward. So thank you guys for entering the giveaway, and thank you guys to everyone who has been supporting the channel. And I'm going to be doing more giveaways in the future, so make sure to join my Discord and just stay commenting, and I will be doing another giveaway soon. So anyways, make sure to, if you guys get this video to 300 likes, I will make sure to do another Wild Rift tier list video. So with that, let's get right on into it. All right guys, we're now taking a look at my ADC tier list. I'm so glad to finally be doing this. I should have done one a very long time, but let's get on into it. So I played most of these ADCs, and the ADC that is just the absolute worst is Ashe. Unfortunately, I'm putting Ashe in the RIP tier. She is the worst ADC. She does no damage. The only good thing about her kit is really her ultimate and her, the thing that gives her vision. But the thing that gives her vision is on such a long cooldown, and her ultimate is not enough to make her a super strong champion. And she's just weak. She doesn't really do much DPS, so she's mainly used for utility. But I think there's other just ADCs you would always want to 100% pick in draft. So yeah, definitely in the RIP tier. Now, second, Vayne. Vayne, guys, is just bad. Vayne as a champion is always going to be weak in the early game, but it feels like even late game, she's not really on par with the other ADCs late game. So it really feels like there's just no reason to want to play Vayne either, right? You could definitely play Vayne. I feel like Vayne is the most fun ADC to play in the game. She has a super fun kit, but she just unfortunately doesn't do much damage at all. I mean, you could definitely draft her in certain situations. Let's say you're against a bunch of tanks and want true damage in your comp. You could definitely run Vayne, but in most cases, you're definitely going to want to run stronger things. But she is definitely a lot better than Ashe always. So that's why she's above Ashe at least. Now the B tier, guys, the B tier. I put Varus and Tristana in the B tier, and I think they're just both trash champs. They don't really, like, Tristana got a buff which puts her up into at least the B tier, but she still is very weak in the early game laning phase. I mean, once you get her to late game, she could definitely hold her ground, but the problem is getting to late game is super hard with her because of how weak she is in the early game. But maybe she's definitely in a decent spot now. Maybe in a certain draft you could get her. Let's say they have a lot of squishies running Tristana does a lot of DPS. Like if you do a full combo on a Lux, for example, that Lux is dead. If you do a full combo on a Jinx, that Jinx is dead. So Tristana could definitely be viable into many squishy champs because she could do a lot of DPS on a single target pretty efficiently. And her splash damage could be all right, but she's nothing too crazy. Now Varus, guys. Varus is just kind of weak as well. I feel like maybe it's also because there's not many good Varus players as well. But Varus just is super weak. I mean, he's decent a little bit in the laning phase with his arrow. It does a lot of damage actually, and you could land it pretty easily. In team fights, his ultimate is pretty good, but it's not really as useful as many other ultimates compared to the other ADCs. And plus, he just there's not really a good time to really pick him. Like, why would you want Varus over all the other champions, right? It doesn't make sense. Varus is also actually a fun champ. I mean, I feel like, guys, Vayne, Tristana, and Varus are all fun champs, guys. They're all fun champs, but they're definitely just not good whatsoever, which sucks. Now, guys, let's get into the A tier, and I'm actually excited about this A tier because this is where I could give you guys a lot of information. So, the A tier has 4 ADC champions: Jhin, Draven, Jinx, and Misfortune. So the thought process behind this, guys, is these are all champs that are great in the situations they're played into. All right, let's first start off with Jhin. So guys, Jhin actually still does a decent amount of damage. He's a super great ADC. He provides a lot of utility with his traps and root. His grenade still does a bunch of damage. And you know, he can still hold his weight. So when would you want to pick Jhin? Well, you would want to pick Jhin if your team needs utility and a decent amount of damage. Like let's say you have a team comp that has a lot of DPS and needs more of a tanky utility ADC. I would go with Jhin because you could go GA pretty early on him, which will make him a little bit tankier. But his kit is phenomenal to combo with Alistar. I mean, he could combo with many champs. Anything that's a stun with a root or a knock up with a root. Basically any type of CC Jhin can always combo with, which makes him super good. And usually that would be an instant kill. And his early game laning phase is phenomenal. The grenade is so OP in the laning phase. I'm trying to think of, like, there's not another ability that is as annoying as a grenade in the early game. Jin's grenade does a lot of damage, so he definitely deserves to be in the A tier. Draven. Now, Draven could be a super high ADC. Like, it could be maybe S tier. If you're extremely good at him, you have to be extremely good at Draven. But when would you want to play Draven? Into squishies, let's say your comp has Draven is good for follow-up damage, right? Because if your team's able to lock down the enemy team and Draven's able to follow up and do a bunch of damage, then it's super good. And also in the early game, Draven's probably one of the strongest ADCs in the early game. I mean, his axes they chunk HPs, but he's super hard to play. So you definitely need to have a high amount of mechanics in order to play him and win efficiently. But he's definitely in the A tier. He's definitely good in certain situations. Now Jinx, guys. Jinx. Jinx used to be S+ tier a long time ago when Bork wasn't nerfed and Lulu wasn't nerfed. She used to be really up there. But now she's kind of average. You could definitely draft her for sure. She's definitely playable. She's not like the other ADCs. She's definitely playable. She does a lot of damage. She could still be a late game carry, but honestly, I just feel like she does no damage. She really she doesn't do as much DPS. But she is definitely a great champion when you have a team comp that can get takedowns fast. Because if you're playing Jinx will always do follow up, right? Jinx doesn't have a dash in or any escape or any speed abilities. Like she is just a bunch of damage, right? She's a walking DPS machine, but she needs someone to lock them down so she could zap, rocket, just secure takedowns. Because when Jinx gets her passive engaged, she could do a lot of damage because she gets increased damage and speed. So she's a super strong ADC with the right draft 100%. But personally, it's very easy to beat Jinx because she doesn't have any movement. Also with Draven's really easy to beat as well. Anyways, the next up is Misfortune. Misfortune, guys, is an early game powerhouse like Draven as well. She's actually really good into Draven. If you want to counter straight up to Draven, you could run Misfortune easily. She does so much damage. I mean, if you learn how to play Misfortune and utilize the ultimate as well, the ultimate is one of the best parts of Misfortune. It literally destroys the enemy's HP. You could also low-key steal dragons with it or get people off objectives or turrets. It's really great for peeling. It's really good for securing kills when the enemy's running away. I mean, the ult is so versatile. Also, her skill 1 ability is as OP as the Jhin grenade, guys. I mean, if you land the ricochet onto the enemy, it does like 200 damage early game. It's super high, guys. Like, you do not want to get hit by that early game. So Misfortune's a very hard hitting ADC in the early game, but there's always a catch with her. You do not want the game to get too late with MF. You won't be able to do as much damage late game. She's not a late game carry at all. She's an early and mid. That's it. She's early mid laner. Early mid ADC champion. And you want to draft her if you want to win early game. Or let's say they're playing a late game ADC, you play Misfortune to just absolutely destroy in the early game. Next up, guys, is Corki in the S tier. Now, Corki is super broken right now. He does insane damage, but the reason why I actually don't have him in S tier is because I think he's also better in mid, and Ezreal and Kaisa that we'll get into later can beat Corki. I mean, Corki's pretty good into Kaisa, but Ezreal can beat Corki. So Corki is just an S. Like, I feel like Corki, you know, he has a great kit. Corki has a great kit. Skill 1 is great for the laning phase to secure minions, to poke. His second skill allows him to run away if he's caught out. His third ability, having that armor and magic penetration, is always really good. And his ultimate, those rockets do a bunch of damage, especially with the Trinity Force proc. I mean, he's just a powerhouse right now. His care package makes him super strong at the 4-minute mark on the dragon fight. Care package basically literally can win you the team fight and dragon early game. So he's definitely a super strong ADC. He could be played in almost any, you could literally just pick him. If you want to be a one-trick ADC, you could literally just play Corki and demolish your games. He's very great. You could win very easily with Corki, and he's just great. He's great. He's definitely, if you learn to master him as well, he could definitely be in the S+ tier. But guys, now let's get in the S+ tier. Let's start off with Ezreal, guys. Ezreal is my favorite. It's just an amazing champ. I love him, but I promise you, I'm not putting him up here because I just play him a lot. I think he's actually so good. He's so good, and let's break down why he's really good. The weakest part about Ezreal is the early game, but you could easily survive the early game. You can easily survive the early game, and also you could get man immune at the 4-minute, like before dragon fight as well, because it's a cheap item. Ezreal's great for securing a kill with his ultimate or just engaging with his dash. He has great poke for team fighting. I mean, he's so versatile. He can literally win games super easily. You could do a lot of things. You could poke down a lot, and even when you're behind, you could always win with Ezreal. That's the thing I feel like. Ezreal's literally the definition of a hyper carry champion. He's a hyper carry champion because he does immense damage in the mid to late game. Once he gets the mana and gets the Trinity, he just does insane amount of damage. He could peel, he could kite, he could chase, engage. He could do a lot of things. That's why I really like Ezreal. Plus, it's really hard to catch him out because the dash will always save his life. So there's many things you could do with it. Also, those late range snipes is super good. But all you got to do in the early game is be careful. Be careful. You do not do as much damage compared to other ADCs. You want to look for ways to poke, farm up, and make sure when you're comboing, you do it with your skill 2. Your skill 2 does a lot of damage if you're comboing it correctly in the early game, so you could actually survive the early game. And that's why I feel like Ezreal's super good. It's really easy to just get to the mid game. You're always going to get to the mid game. Once you get to the mid game, you can just win all your games just like that. But you need to have you need to have decent Ezreal mechanics. You could go in practice mode, just play him. I also have Ezreal guides if you want to check it out. I have guides on all these champions, by the way, if you want to go check them out. I have a playlist where you could just check them out and you could learn how to play them and what you should be building and things like that. So Ezreal, I think, is super great. Super great in most cases. Next, Kaisa. Kaisa is just amazing because her DPS is super good, and she's just like Ezreal. She's mid late game ADC that could hard carry, but also in the early game she does a lot of DPS once she gets her skill 1 evolution, which you could get before or at 4 minutes. Which if you get it before 4 minutes, if you get it before dragon fight, you're gonna win for sure. You're gonna win for sure. So what's great about Kaisa? It's the DPS, but she has a skill that allows her to follow up, disengage, go invisible. Like once you get the skill 3 evolution, you could actually go invisible. And invisible champs are super OP, guys. Like you can make a lot of plays with that. You could juke enemies. You also get attack speed from it, which is super good. Also, the ultimate could literally save your life. It could allow, it could allow you to live team fights. It could allow you to jump walls or go over walls. It allows you to go onto the back line. Let's say the back line, there's the back line and then the front line of the enemy comp, and the enemy comp's engaging on you, but you have a mark on the back line. You could ult to the back line and kill the back line. So there's a lot of things you could do with Kaisa as long as you understand that you want to focus down on one champion. So, for example, Ezreal doesn't care. Ezreal's going to poke a bunch of people and just ult and do everything, right? But Kaisa, you need to focus one champ at a time. Figure out, okay, this is my target. I'm going to use my skill 1, skill 2, maybe ult if you have to, but you want to focus one person, especially with your skill 1. You want to be skill 1ing one person. But with Kaisa and Ezreal, they're both S+ champs because they're really good in the mid and late game, and you're always going to get to the mid game. But they both are kind of a little bit weak in the early game. But if you have high mechanics, you'll always make it out. So guys, this is my Wild Rift ADC tier list. If you guys want to see me do a tier list on the other roles, I will definitely make sure to collaborate with some of my friends that are very good in those roles to make the best tier list possible for those type of roles. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.